Boris Epshteyn is a pig. And this guy, all he knows how to do is try to overtalk people and pivot to attacks on Hillary Clinton. Joy Reid had Mr. Epstein and Malcolm Nance on her show this morning. And Boris stupidly tried to dispute what Malcolm Nance was saying, and Malcolm wasn't having any of it. Here's the clip from her show.
Provably false claim that he was totally against the Iraq war from the beginning.
And the Howard statement was long before, and it was the first time anybody ever asked me about Iraq, and he said, I said, I don't know. You know, I said, the war is a mess on television somewhere, despite the media saying no, yes, no. I opposed going in. Frankly, nobody really cared too much about what I said. I'm doing business. I don't even know why I was asked the question.
And here's Trump on Howard Stern in 2002 before the start of the Iraq war.
So you for invading Iraq?
Yeah, I guess so. You know, I wish it was. I wish the first time it was done correctly.
And joining me now, Malcolm Nance, Executive Director of the Terror Asymmetrics Project and author of Defeating ISIS, and Senior Advisor to the Donald Trump campaign, Boris Epshteyn. All right, so thank you very much for being here. I'm going to start with you on this, Malcolm. To go back to the beginning of the montage that we played with Donald Trump, as a former member of the intelligence community, would intelligence briefers ever wink, wink, nod, nod, and use body language to signal sort of hostage style to a presidential candidate that they were unhappy with the current commander-in-chief?
Absolutely not. This is just one of those things that just does not occur. The intelligence briefers who give this level of intelligence brief, this is Commander-in-Chief, PDB level intelligence briefers, are the single best briefers in the United States. And they will go up there, they'll whip out their PowerPoint stack, and they will go up and they will just say good morning, hit the points that they need to hit the button on the PowerPoint slide. They'll say, are there any questions? Thank you.
Yeah.
That is it. Nothing more. There is no wink, wink, nod, nod, nudge, nudge, say no more with intelligence briefers.
And, you know, Boris, it was an interesting contrast when you saw Mike Pence come out and do what candidates normally do. He says, I can't talk about the details of this briefing. I thought it was a very good briefing, et cetera. He was very benign, which is what you normally hear presidential candidates do. Why would Trump essentially seem to try to apparently leak what happened in the briefing and then also get it wrong? Oh, come on. Why don't you answer my question?
She didn't leak one thing. There was a candidate who did speak about her intelligence briefings. That was in 2008, and that was Hillary Clinton, who came out.
All right, stop, Boris. Yeah, he did try to leak something, and you are partially right where specifics were not leaked, but he was basically trying to intimate that the intelligence people, which he said it himself, didn't agree with what Obama was doing. That's basically what Trump was trying to intimate with his statements, and he specifically even said it. So yeah, he did leak something. He was trying to leak the fact that intelligence doesn't agree with President Obama, which was bullshit.
That's not true. First of all, you know what? Hold on a second. No. You hold on. You didn't answer it. Hold on, Boris. I'm going to let you answer. Boris, we're not going to crosstalk. One of us is going to talk at a time. And when it's AM Boris, you can talk whenever you want. We're going to talk one at a time on this show. And I'm going to propose you, before you finish your answer, I'm going to propose a kind of syllogism, okay? It's not a perfect syllogism for people who studied philosophy. But if I ask you a question about Donald Trump, and you give me an answer about Hillary Clinton, I think it's fair for the people who are watching this show to come to the conclusion that either A, you don't know the answer to my question, B, the answer to my question would not help your candidates, you don't want to give it, or 3, you're not here to answer my questions, you're here to give talking points that help your candidate. So now I'm going to ask you the question again.
Sure.
Why would Donald Trump leak what turns out to be completely specious information from the briefing he was given by
What information did he leak, Joy?
He claims that he heard the advisors say that they don't like it, that he read their body language.
No, he didn't claim that.
Should we play it again? Can my producers, can we re-rack what Donald Trump said about the briefing that he had? Do we have that? All right, we're going to get some time on that. I'm going to move on with you, Boris, and stay with you for just a second. Given all of the questions that have been raised, not just by Democrats, but by even Republicans, by editorial boards. Oh, wait, we do have that sound? All right, let's play that sound.
Let's do it.
Let's play.
I could tell I had pretty good with the body language. I could tell they were not happy our leaders did not follow what they were recommending.
But you want to be complimented by that former KGB?
We can stop it there. Why would Donald Trump do that?
Why would he say that he read their body language? Because that's what he did. He's being honest about it. With all due respect to Malcolm, he was not in the briefings. Donald Trump was. You have to take his word for it.
You have to take his word for it. And let me get your response to that, Malcolm.
Negative. I've given strategic level briefings to high level battlefield commanders, and I will tell you right now, all right, the utmost of unprofessionalism would be to make anything other than the intelligence that's there. The briefers themselves do not make recommendations. They don't say anything other than answering the questions that they're asked, because the people who are getting the information are the consumers of intelligence. We are the producers of intelligence. We may interpret it if given a recommendation, but it'll go through a very long job change.
Excuse me, Malcolm is talking.
Well, with all due respect, I don't have to be in the room because I've done it before.
So
what you're saying is...
Boris, don't make me cut your mic. When Malcolm is talking, you're not talking. Go ahead.
Okay, maybe he's talking about General Flynn being the person in the room who was former DIA director, having some problem with it. But I'm going to tell you right now, I'll stand for the honor of the briefers. They didn't say anything, give any input.
All right, let's move on. No, we're moving on to the next topic. We're moving on to the next topic.
Sure.
Let's talk about Donald Trump going on Russian state television, Boris, because given all of the questions that have been raised about
Russian state television, Joy?
Yeah, Russia Today. You're familiar with that, right?
It's not Russian state television. That's Channel 1 in Russia.
It's actually Russian-funded television. Before we answer the question, let's let Malcolm explain what RT is, Russia Today.
Yeah, Russia Today is a state-funded, state-organized, state propaganda arm, which is an extension of the old Soviet television system. There is no free television in Russia. And
so you're saying Larry King is on Russia's state-owned television?
Well, Larry King, of course, is now broadcasting his show on a show that likes his viewpoint. So when you go on Larry King's show and that little RT is sitting in the corner, that does not mean the reality show of Donald Trump. That stands for Russia Today, and it means that you are on a state organ, just as if you were to be on China Today or if you would be on North Korea today. So you have to understand that when you do that, when you go on that channel, you're talking for the Russians.
Okay,
so now having set that up,
hold on a second. Saying the Russians don't control what he says. He said that yesterday in a live interview.
Well, you know what? Excuse me. We're going to answer the question as I ask it. Now, back to you, Boris. Given all the questions that have been raised between Paul Manafort, essentially acting as an agent of Russia and then working for the Trump campaign, changing the platform of the Republican National Committee on Crimea and on NATO to be more in favor of Putin, and all the Putin love that Donald Trump has shown that's raised really alarms in your party, why would he go on Russian television? Why would he do that?
First of all, 90% of Republicans are now behind Donald Trump. The party's coalescing. So he's not raising alarms in our party. Second of all, as Larry King said himself yesterday, no one in Russia controls what he says, and that was a show that's broadcast partly on RT, but also a dozen other channels all over the world. So that's all that was. It was a favor to an old friend that had known each other for decades, and it was a fair enough discussion, and there's nothing there. And as Larry King again said, he's not controlled by Russia, he's not controlled by the Kremlin, and RT is only one of the outlets that show is broadcast on.
That's actually...
All right, real quick here. Boris didn't answer the question on why the Republican platform took out planks that were in support of the Ukraine. Didn't answer that question either.
Not the reporting. And by the way, if they didn't have a problem with the perception of it, then why did the Trump campaign essentially attempt to lie to the press and say that they were only on Larry King's podcast? Why wouldn't they just admit that they were on Russian television?
Listen, if you look at it, obviously he was not live on TV, so whether it's a podcast or a recorded interview, sort of one and the same. And by the way, if you played the clip of
they're not one and the same, which Mr. King is specifically going to state later on in this clip.
Just like you played a clip earlier, he was expressly stated that show is broadcast over a lot of different networks all over the world.
And specifically on Russia Today. Let's play Larry King, who was responding to the idea from his friend, longtime friend Donald Trump, who attempted to shade the fact that he was on Russian television and claim that they thought he was on the podcast. This is Larry King.
My wife and I do a podcast once a week on Podcast One, and he guested on that about 6 months ago. In the interim, I've talked to him on occasion. I said, you got to do my TV show. And he said, I'm working on it. Finally, it was out of my hands, and my producers worked with Donald Trump's people, whoever they are. I don't know what Trump knew. He couldn't have known it was a podcast because he just did my podcast.
So let's butt this up, Boris. He knew he was not on the podcast.
No, listen,
he knew he was on Russia Today, correct?
What is it? No, he didn't. Absolutely not. Do you think the American
you just
voters
said there
really
was nothing wrong with being on
the
Russia
American
Today.
voters really care about this? Whether he was on a recorded interview or a podcast? Let's talk about the issues actually facing the voters. Let's talk about national security. Let's talk.
There's Boris pivoting again.
The deal that we just entered into with Russia, the U.S. did, completely contrary to everything that Hillary Clinton has been saying.
We did the Hillary Clinton thing again. Remember my syllogism from earlier. Malcolm Nance, let's actually talk about...
I'm candidate. Wow, that is so shocking. There's two candidates in this race.
Well, you know what? When you become a surrogate for Hillary Clinton, I'll ask you all kinds of questions about her.
You already are, so that's fine.
Oh, that's... Good shot. Good try. Let's go to Malcolm next.
Well, I think that he's right about one thing. We really should talk about national security. So let me talk about national security. I know he has General Flynn, the former director of DIA, on his staff, who I'm quite surprised as is giving, obviously, very bad advice about what formats he should go out on. But number one, Russia performs an entire operation that is integral to their state and intelligence apparatus called hybrid warfare. And the first component of hybrid warfare is political warfare and perception management, which is managed by the Russian intelligence apparatus and by the Kremlin itself. And there is nothing that occurs within Russia that is not part of the hybrid warfare perception management campaign. When they put something on television, they have a person out there that they have a message out there that they want the world to see within the propagandist apparatus of Russia. And they see you, Boris, and the Trump campaign as an ally, not as the American opponents.
Russia's an ally? Barack Obama.
No, he does not see it. No, he does not see Russia as an ally.
Look at the press conference yesterday with Lavrov and Kerry.
Let me ask you a question. Because Barack Obama, the current president of the United States, who was criticized by Donald Trump on Russian television, something if a Democrat did, you'd be on here excoriated them. He managed to do a deal with Russia without saying the following things. Let's play a little montage of the love that Donald Trump has shown Vladimir Putin, because Barack Obama's managed to deal with Russia without doing this. Take a listen.
I think I would have a very, very good relationship with Putin. He's done a very brilliant job in terms of what he represents and who he's representing. If you look at what he's done with Syria. If we had a relationship with Russia, wouldn't it be wonderful if we could work on it together and knock the hell out of ISIS?
What do you call a relationship? I mean, he treats me with great respect.
We were both on 60 Minutes. We were stablemates, and we did very well that night. He's been a leader far more than our president has been a leader. He said Donald Trump is a genius, and he's going to be the leader of the party, and he's going to be the leader of the world or something.
Can we show this tweet that Donald Trump did where he eventually said, this is a few years ago when I guess they were doing Miss USA. Do you think Putin will be attending the Miss Universe pageant in November in Moscow? So he'll be my new best friend. President Obama has managed to strike a deal, as you just mentioned, on trying to fight ISIS with Vladimir Putin without doing that. Why does Donald Trump need to show that much love for an adversary of the United States?
Joy, to be fair, you didn't show Donald Trump at the forum saying that he will absolutely be tough on President Putin, that he doesn't care about the nice things that Putin says about him. No, he actually didn't say that.
He said he does care about the nice things he said about him. He says he likes them.
Actually, just to be fair, yeah, he did say that.
FDR, JFK, Nixon, Reagan, H.W. Bush, W. Bush. Bill Clinton went and visited with Vladimir Putin after he gave a 90-minute speech for which he was paid $500,000. So we have a long list of presidents working with Russia, but also the Clintons being way too cozy with Russia and making money off of that.
I love the way you threw in a complete falsehood at the end of your answer, but I want to ask you this now.
Hold on, did he not make that speech before you call me a liar?
Excuse me, we're going to Malcolm Nance now.
Okay.
Malcolm, here's my question.
Please.
Because this is actually a valid point, that you've had presidents, going back to Ronald Reagan, he did say tear down that wall, right? But he also managed to do nuclear treaties with Russia. The original START treaty was done with then when they were the Soviet Union, when they were a much bigger, badder entity. The question is, what is the material difference between a president being able to strike a deal with Russia but see them as an adversary and what Donald Trump is doing? Why are people troubled by the tone of Donald Trump's attitude toward Russia?
Let me tell you where people are really troubled at within the intelligence community, and that's the counterintelligence community, the people who are actual spy catchers. And believe me, over the last month and a half here, that community is tearing their hair out. A president carrying out statecraft, which is the art of going out and cutting deals with your adversaries, your enemies, or getting things done within the parameters of the international framework of laws, is completely different than someone who is sullying up and currying up favor with an opponent. No, with a strategic opponent. And Donald Trump is doing that. Right now, we are wondering, the word has been out there, is Donald Donald Trump actually an unwitting asset of the spy master in chief, the former director of the KGB, the former director of the KGB, Boris. Okay, let me rephrase that. The former director of the KGB, all right, is the person who he shows the most admiration for.
Excuse me, no one can hear two people talking at the same time. You've been on television a long time, Boris, and you know that two mics with voices coming out at the same time is impossible to hear. But Malcolm is talking.
As I was saying, the former director of the KGB is the person he shows the greatest admiration for, above and beyond any American citizen and a current United States president, and putting that out repeatedly. I have to wonder whether, as we say in the intelligence community, there's a dirty tail here. All right? And whether this needs to be investigated on a strategic scale as to whether this person is actually an unwitting asset of a foreign intelligence.
And before we go, because we are out of time, but I do want to show that this is not something that is only being said on the left, Boris. You've had headlines coming out of everything from the Washington Post, but all the way, even on the right, people at Red State are concerned about it. You have a lot of concern, and I'm showing it doesn't make a difference. They are conservatives. They're still conservatives, right? You still allow them to be conservative. Sure, there's a lot of concern about this, and it isn't just among Hillary Clinton supporters. It is actually among some Republicans as well.
Well,
I don't think
90%
it's possible
of Republicans
to escape
are backing
that.
Trump. So the Republican Party is not concerned. The left is making accusations like Malcolm just did, which are very dangerous. You just accused the Republican candidate for president of treason, Malcolm. You should be ashamed of yourself.
That is not what he said. You're adding words.
What I said was that there should be an investigation in counterintelligence about the ties of the KGB, or sorry, FSB now, to the Trump campaign, and whether there is an actual intelligence operation that unwittingly...
I think this is a question time's up. This is a question I think we're going to talk about a lot more, Malcolm. Thank you. I always appreciate having you on. Boris, thanks for being here. All right.
Yeah, Boris is a turd. He's a turd. That's why Trump loves him. But yeah, there should be an investigation as to what kind of ties the Trump campaign has to Mr. Putin and the FSB, because there's just too much love that Trump is giving Russia, Mr. Putin, than is actually deserved. Actually, there should be no love deserved for some of the crap he's doing around the world. But, you know, he, as I stated previously, I think Donald Trump wants to grow up to be Putin.